This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Basically, why do we use traffic manager? To distribute traffic. Can I use VM? Okay. Then why did you say only app services? You need to say it like to distribute the traffic to the endpoints. Endpoint can be app service or VMs. Okay. What is like in the definition? I can see that it acts as a load balancer. What kind of load balancer it is? DNS based load balancer. Okay. Well, this is getting deleted. We'll see the documentation. So earlier we have discussed about traffic manager. Today we are going to discuss about load balancer. So you can go through all this Microsoft documentation itself. So let's come to this load balancer. What it does, it refers to evenly distributing the load across a group of backend resources or servers. So load distribution happens to the backend servers or resources. How it is going to happen evenly? When I say evenly, that means equal. If there are four requests, two will go to one, two will go to another. So it represents like it is going to distribute the incoming which traffic? Network traffic. There it is DNS based traffic. Here it is network based traffic. And we have one more service called application gateway. I'll tell you this also. Application gateway. Sure. See this documentation also. It is a web traffic load balancer that enables you to manage the traffic to your web applications. So they are also saying that it is also a load balancer. This is also a load balancer. Traffic manager is also a load balancer. Why there are three load balancers? So that means for each of these three, there is different characters for it. Okay. So what does the traffic manager do? It is going to distribute the traffic based on the DNS name. DNS stands for domain name service. Okay. When it comes to load balancer, what it does, it takes the incoming network traffic and distributes to the backend VMs or resources or servers. When it goes to application gateway, it is also acts as a load balancer, but it is a web traffic load balancer. See the differences. These three are different. Let's compare the differences between load balancer and application gateway. Load balancer, it takes the incoming network traffic. Application gateway takes web traffic. Okay. So as of now, we are going to discuss about load balancer. When I say incoming network traffic, what kind of network traffic it is? TCP, UDP protocols. Network traffic, you know, right? Basically, you will be having IPv4, IPv6, and how the network traffic happens between them by using layer 4 of the OSI model, Open System Interconnection. So basically, for networking, there are 7 layers. OSI model layers. There are 7 layers. What does each layer is going to discuss? So let's see. This is the 7 layers of the OSI model. So this is client side and this is server side. Okay. The client needs to communicate with what? Server. So in order to communicate from the client side to server side, there are 7 layers in between. So first one is physical, second one is data, third one is network layer, fourth one is transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, application layer. You see this application layer, right? This is layer 7. This layer 7 is going to be called in this application layer, the application gateway is going to work. In the layer 4, transport layer. So one, 2, 3, 4, transport layer. This transport layer, the load balancer is going to work. So if you see the definition, a Azure load balancer operates at layer 4. That means in the transport layer. It takes the incoming network traffic and distributes to the backend VM. And when it comes to the application gateway, it acts on layer 7 of the OSI model. When I say layer 7, it means application layer. Okay. So basically, how many load balancers are there? There are two kinds of load balancers within the Azure load balancer itself. One is public facing, second one is private facing. One is public, second one is private, right? I'm going to call the private as internal load balancer. Okay. Now I'll just try to explain you this way. So let's consider this is a VNet. Okay. Inside the VNet, I have VMs. One VM, second VM, third VM. In these three VMs, let's consider we have an application in these three VMs. And I want to give a request. Let's consider this is a pool. You know about the pool, right? It contains one or more VMs inside it. Now I want to give a request to the pool. For example, if this VM is already serving the request, it will skip this VM and it will go here. If these two VMs are busy, it will go to the third one. Now, how does it know that it needs to send the request to the third VM? Understood the point? How does it know? So for that process, what we are going to do is we are going to keep a service in front of the VMs. Okay. Basically, I am a user from the outside world. Okay. So that means I am public. As a public, can I directly go to this VNet? No, it is not possible. So my VMs are created inside this VNet, and this pool is inside this VNet itself. I cannot directly communicate to this. So what I was doing is I kept one load balancer in front of this pool. Now I can give the request to this load balancer, and the load balancer will take care to this pool, take the request to the pool. If this VM is busy, it will take the second VM. If this VM is busy, it will take the third VM. How does it know that whether it is this VM is busy or not? We'll see that later. For example, out of these three VMs, this VM is shut down. How does this application, how does this load balancer knows that this is shut down? You also have get that question, right? So we'll see that later. So I need to give the request to the load balancer. The load balancer will take the request and send it to the pool. Inside the pool, how many VMs are there as of now? Three VMs. Okay. Now, how I can give the request to the load balancer and how it is going to take it. So since I am a public user, so I am going to make use of public load balancer. So public load balancer, what it does is directly I cannot expose my VMs outside. So I kept one service in front of it so that the public can interact with this load balancer and the request will go inside this VM. How the public is going to give the request? Earlier, if you see, how did you give the request to the traffic manager? DNS name. For this public load balancer, we will be having a public IP. Got it? So now the request went into like this. So the I'm going to browse the public load balancer IP, and the request goes inside this VM. Let's consider one more scenario. Not only these three VMs, we have three other VMs. Let's consider a scenario. My request came here, and the load balancer took my request to this VM. And once my request went into this, again I am trying to access something. So let's consider this is the user interface. This VM is having user interface. If I click on user interface, the request will go to where? Background database. In these three VMs, I have the database. Same data I'm having. Now, if my request goes inside this, once if I made any operation, the request should go to any of these three VMs, right? Let's consider this one. Can you directly say that take my request to this? We cannot say it. If this database is busy, I need to take the request to this. If this is busy, I need to take the request to this one. Who is going to say this? Understood. So that's why I am going to keep one more load balancer inside this. Understood. So now this load balancer is internal inside this VNet, right? So that's why I'm going to call this as an internal load balancer. Now, whatever the request I give it to the load balancer, it will come and take into this VM. And from this VM, whatever I perform, these three VMs are connected to this. Understood? These three VMs are connected to this internal load balancer. So my request goes to internal load balancer. And if this is free, my request will be taken here like this. Understood? ఇక్కడ మీరు ఏదైతే చేశారో సేమ్ థింగ్, కాకపోతే ఇంకొక లోడ్ బ్యాలెన్సర్ పెట్టారు మధ్యలో. So you understood it. So whatever you have done in the same way we have used like this. So let's go to the documentation and I'll show you. See this. This is a VNet. The dotted symbols are there, right? This is the VNet. Inside the VNet, I created two subnets. One is web tier and second one is the business tier. Let's consider this is user interface. This is the database part. So I cannot directly expose these three VMs. So that's why I kept one public load balancer. So the users are going to hit the public load balancer and the request comes here. And once the request comes here, I need to take the request and serve it from any of these three VMs. Automatically it won't happen. So that's why I kept one more load balancer. So the request comes here, goes to this VM and the request goes to here. Whichever is free among these three, the request will go here. Understood? So this is how a load balancer works. What it is doing, evenly distributing the incoming network traffic across group of VMs. So now we need to do that practically. How I am going to send the request to this VM and how the distribution is going to happen to these VMs. So here they have shown three VMs, right? I will create two VMs. That is fine. If I hit the load balancer, the request will go to any of my two VMs, right? To which VM my request went, how can you find it? You cannot find it by simply browsing it. So I will install IAS in these two machines. For this VM, I will keep it as IAS1. For this VM, I will keep it as IAS2. So once if I hit the request, based upon the web page, I can understand that which VM it went. Okay, so let's do that practically. So we are going to create a resource group and let's consider. So to practice this, what are the resources we need to have? A VNet, two subnets and two VMs from one subnet and two VMs from the another subnet. Okay, so now let's practice this. First, we need to have a virtual network. So I am going to create the VNet as, so create the new resource group rg-lb load balancer. I am going to name the VNet as VNet LB, VNet load balancer. And next go to IP addresses. By default, we have this address base. And what is the default subnet? It is having by created one subnet. I want to create a new subnet with called subnet A. And I can provide the IP address something like 7.0 already completed, right? Go with 1.0. Okay, add this. So we have two subnets. One subnet is default and the second subnet is subnet A. I'm okay with this. Just review and create this. Okay. While this is getting created, I will show you the documentation how you need to practice it. Okay. So if you go here, they have given some examples. Let's see. Azure load balance in Azure using Azure portal. Wherever you see portal, wherever if you keep portal, they are going to give you some documentation. Like how you can practice, create public load balancer. I will show you about the public and you can practice private. It's fine even if you only go with the public. Okay, so first you need to create a vnet, and then once the vnet is created, then you need to create the load balancer. And once the load balancer is created, I'll show you. NAT gateway is not fine. You need to create VMs, two VMs. Once the VMs are created, then you need to install IaaS. Earlier you used to connect to the remote desktop and install IaaS, right? Now we will take this script. This script will automatically create the VM, create the IaaS, install IaaS on top of that VM. So copy this script as of now. So just you just need to run it, that's it. And you can test the load balancer after that. Okay. So the VNet is created. Now I am going to create load balancer. So you need to search for a service called load balancer. And I already has one load balancer. I'm just going to create one more, saying that I need to create this under this resource. My load balancer name is new-lb. And where do you want to create this? I want to create it under West US. What is the standards queue? Standard. Gateway or basic? I'm just going with the standard. What is the tier? This is where you need to select your load balancer type. Public or private? Private is nothing but internal, right? I'm going to take it as public. You want this tier to be global wise or regional level wise? Let's keep it with the regional level wise. And let's see this. In order to set up this, you need to, okay, it is asking the user should access the load balancer, right? So they need to give one, they need to hit the load balancer. How they can hit? So for that load balancer, we need to have an IP. So you need to configure the IP. And let's see the next option. We need to do the backend pull. Are the VMs ready? So how can we configure the backend pull? We cannot configure. So that's why we will skip this point. Let's concentrate on creating the VMs first. Understood. Backend pool means in the backend, what is your resource? My resources are VMs. So let's create the VMs. So I want to create my VMs under this resource group. First one, I'm going to make it as VM1 region West US 3. No infrastructure redundancy standard. I don't want Ubuntu. I want Windows. And it is a 64-bit operating system. And 1 GB is not sufficient. I'm just going to make use of, okay, 2 vCPUs and 8 GB because it will be fast. That's why. More the configuration, more the speed. I created the VMs and IAS runs on which port number? IAS. What is the default port number for IAS? Okay, when you browse IAS, is it secure or not secure? Hmm? Not secure, right? That means port number 80. So IAS runs on default port number 80. Okay. You understood this, what I'm doing? I'm directly enabling the port number here, inbound port rule. And go to the next networking concept. If you go to the networking concept, this is where you need to select your VNet and which subnet you want to take. Why it is showing this? Is this the one I created? Basically, I created two VNets, two subnets, right? This is the new one. But what about this? I'm able to see only new 10.9.0.0. RGLB only, right? So you need to concentrate on the names as well. But I'm not able to see that here. RGVM, RGVNet, RGVNet2. Where did I create the VM? If you go here, I think I have selected this. Let me search with the name LB. Yes, I have only one resource group, and inside this West US 3 only, right? And this is fine. This is fine. Let's go to networking concept and see it is trying to create a new resource group. Why? Clearly, you can see that a new subnet is also going to be created. While I'm creating this, still the VNet is in progress. Let me just refresh this. నేను క్రియేట్ చేసే లోపే అది ఓపెన్ చేశాను అనుకోండి నాకు అది లోడ్ అవ్వదు కదా. First I will verify where is my VNet. So my VNet should be under this, right? VNet LB. Okay. And see this. I created it in Central US. That is what the issue is. Can you change the location? Okay. Edit where it is. Edit. Move. Move to another resource group, another subscription, or another region. Another region you can keep it, but it will take 30 minutes for sure. So I'll just keep it as it is, and I'll create the VMs from the central US itself. Yeah. Okay. So the resource group is RG underscore LB. I'm going to keep it as VM1, and the region is central. This is what the problem is. So that's why I always ask you to take the West US 3. But I created it in some other region. So again, we need to do a, or else I'll do one thing. Anyhow, VNet creation you have seen, right? I will take the existing VNet. So we have P2S VNet, which is okay. P2S we have already configured. RGVM VNet is there, and I'll go to the subnets and let's see. In real times, nobody is going to maintain different locations. They keep every resource in the same location. That is what they call it as primary region. Okay, now we have the default subnet, right? I'm going to, okay, I'll take this default subnet only. Why to take subnet here? I'll just use this default, or else I'll create it. Subnet A, and it should be with this address, and save this. I created subnet A. Once it is added, then I'll do VMs. So the VNet is from RGVM VNet. I'll copy this. We need to wait till it completes. Okay, I'll do one thing. Duplicate this. Okay, it is added. So subnet A is created. I'm going to create VMs. So it will be from, what is the resource group name? So, RGVM VNet. That is the VNet name. So we need to see that as a resource group name, right? So let me check. So that is what the problem is. If you are using the existing resources, you need to cross check each and everything. RGVM VNet, and it is under RGVM. Okay, so this is the resource to VM1, rest US3, no infrastructure standard, make it as Windows and what? Yeah, done. Yeah, this configuration is fine for me. SA admin, India, 812345 6. Allow the selected ports to port number 80. Go to networking tab. Yes, this is the VNet. And inside this VNet, I need to create one VM from two VMs from the same subnet. So I created subnet A. Network issue. Huh? not able to. Lost the connection. Yeah, it is due to that network issue, guys. So can you guys hear me right now? No, it's fine. Okay, fine. I think even here it is also problem with the same network, I guess. We need to do it again. Now you understood the pain, right? Now each and every time if you want to do user through user interface, we are trying to create the VMs. But are you going to do the same thing through the user interface in the real? Already there will be a script to create the VM. You just need to change the values. That's it. You run it. It will create it within 1 or 2 minutes. You don't have to keep on changing all these things. So which it is RG? Okay. 2019 is fine. This is fine. Hope there should not be any network issue right now. RDP తో పాటు HTTP కూడా. So go to networking and I want to take the subnet A and a new IP should be created. That's fine. If it is getting created right now, then it is a problem with the internet. No. So then there is a problem with the disk usage. Cannot read properties of undefined reading valid. So we need to delete the existing data disks. Or else try to do this thing. Instead of 2019, what I'll do is I'll take somewhere around 2016 and I'll make it as 64-bit self. ARM64 is not supported with the selected image. That is fine. I don't want this much of configuration. I just need 1 GB and 1 CPU. Free service eligible. Why we are getting this error? This is the first time even I am seeing this. Cannot read properties of undefined. Reading valid. So if that is the case, we have only one disk. So this is wherever you see classic, that is the old model. Nobody is using the classic right now. Okay, so is it a problem with the VNet itself or no? The properties of undefined. Not read the properties of valid. Cannot read the properties. He got the same kind of error on March this year itself. So what they are trying to say is, can you please share the screenshot? Okay, I'll share. Share the year. So while they are trying to create the image, they are saying that use managed disk as this. Keep like this. Okay. By default in Azure, whenever we create a VM from a specific gallery image version, it is created with the managed disk. So in advanced disk section, use the managed disk is selected. Okay, that is fine. Yes, this is also fine. We haven't changed anything as of now. It is always selected. The selected image is too large for the OS cache. and temp disk of the selected instance. Okay, so that's why it is showing the selected image is too long. It shows. So that's why we will change it to something else. Azure Edition. Let's go back to this. Still the same. Even the 2022 edition is also the same. Let me see this. If you have a need to create a VM with unmanaged disk, you need to fall back to the different approaches available for creating the VMs with the customized VHD. This is old model. Whatever they answered, it is not going to work for us. How to fix the dynamic disk invalid? Oh, that is different. Are we missing anything? No. Virtual memory. There is another option for it, I guess, but that's a long process. Create Azure VM using existing unmanaged. No. Create on existing VHD. No, this is also waste. Third party on this website. This was the first time I am getting this issue. I never fall into this kind of issue. Cannot read the properties of undefined. Reading valid. కొత్త విఎంఏ కదా ఇది వీనెట్ వీనెట్ ప్రాబ్లం కాదు ఇది బట్ దాని మీద ఇన్స్టలేషన్ కూడా మళ్ళీ టైం పడుతుంది కదా లెట్స్ టేక్ విండోస్ 10 Pro. Same problem. Okay, let's take Ubuntu as per the public demand. Again, you need to fill this right. Password based, and these are fine. Same problem. Azure VMs have one operating system disk and temporary disk for short-term usage. Yes, we know that. We can attach the additional data disk. Let's do this. This is what I have in my mind. We already have one disk, my movies disk, right? I will attach that. I think this is the latest one that they are showing. But it is still loading. Okay. I will give you the easy way. We already bored with the user interface thing. So let's try to create VM using Azure CLI. Just understand this is a fresh concept. Create a Windows virtual machine with the Azure CLI. So we got bored with that user interface thing. So that's why I just want to show you like this. This is fine, right? What they are trying to see? Create a virtual machine. To create the resources in Azure, there are four ways actually. There are four ways. One is through user interface. You already know that. Second one is by using Azure CLI. Third one is using ARM template. Fourth one is by using Terraform. We will cover these four. But as of now, I want you guys to see this Azure CLI. Okay. So to create a, see this. What do you understand by this? If you want to interact with Azure, first it is going to start with AZ VM. What they are trying to do, create. Under which resource group, what is the name of the VM, what is the image name for that VM, do you want to enable public user IP, and do you want to create the username. So like this, once if you pass, then you can create a VM. And see, they are also trying to even install the IAS. That's fine. Even through the PowerShell, you can do this. See, even they are trying to open the ports also. Port 80 and 3389. 3389 for RDP. Okay. Just copy this and let's use this. And now you need to set this up. Manually, you need to keep rg-. This is the resource group name. I'm going to keep it as my VM1. And in which location it is? West US 3. What is the VNet name? You can copy paste it from this rgbm. So this is the VNet name. Copy this. Instead of my VNet, I'll keep this VNet. What is the subnet name? Subnet A. Security group name. My network security group 1 2. Some random name. Public IP address కావాలా? Yes. కావాలి. పెట్టుకోండి. My public IP VM name ఏంటి? My VM1. The name of the public IP address should be this. And I want to open the ports 80 and 3389. Okay. Now I am okay with this. Now let's do the house cleaning work. Keep everything in the same line. Even after doing this, again we are going to get one error. I'll tell you why it is. So today it is completely gone with this error. Okay. So this is the line. Copy this, and where do you want to execute this? PowerShell. Okay. See there. This is the line. 10. Run this. Now you will be having a doubt. Okay. Say this. What is the username? SA admin. What is the password? India 812345 6. No subscription found on the context. So if you want to make a subscription, first it needs to know, right, which subscription it is. So what I'll do is I'll log in first. When I do login, it is going to take me to the portal page. See, it has took me to the portal page and it is asking me what is the username. I logged in. See this, you have logged into the Azure. Close this. Come again here. Yeah, this is the account, right? I want to run this line again. And see this. No subscription found in the contact. Please ensure the credentials you have provided are authorized to access the subscription. Then run the connect-az login to log in into this. See this connect-az account. If it is asking for the password, I don't have that password. SK something is there, right? That name is not here. So I don't have her user ID and password. So all the ways are logged. So what is the better we can do? Let's one last time. Okay. What is this? RGI from VM, right? Okay. VM1. one last time. If this is not going to work, then what we do is tomorrow. Okay, just keep everything as it is. VNet also, VM VNet, default subnet I am taking, any subnet. Let's do this. If it is valid, see, I think it is valid. Okay, now what I will do is, to make me satisfied, I'll go here and again I'll change the subnet. See, some network glitch or something. That is the problem. And now review and create this and let's see whether it is going to validate or not. You see, it is 1 rupee per hour. That means which VM it is? Windows 2019 only. What is the size of it? 1 GB and 1 vCPU. I think that was some network issue or some problem with the portal itself. So we have spent like nearly 50 minutes. So we cannot get these kind of things. See, we haven't even fixed anything. So that is a problem with the Microsoft itself, I think. And see now the this thing is passed. So create it. Now the VM is created, right? So the next thing is we need to install IAS on top of it. I'm just showing it for one VM. I want you guys to do it for the two VMs. So just for the just for the sake of time purpose. So VMs is the right IAS. So where is this? We have the script, right? Copy this. Now, do we need to log in into the system to execute this script, or do we have any other way? What do you think? So we need to install IAS. That means we need to log in into the system, and then we need to run that script. You guys are thinking like that, right? To install IAS. So to install IAS on the without even logging into the VM, we have another process. That step is called run command. So when you open the once the VM is created, I'll show you. You don't have to log in. You can directly copy the script and paste it there. So it will directly run on that VM. See, this was very silly issue. We didn't make any change. Looks like there are some internet issues, guys. I have connected my mobile hotspot to this. So there is some network glitch is also happening, network issues and everything. Okay. So what I was discussing was, once the VM is created, do we need to log in into the VM and run the script? Not required. Then how can you run? So I will show you. So this, let's consider this VM is created. I think this VM is created. Okay. So once if you go to this VM, screen share is on. Yeah. Once if you go to this VM, there you need to search for what? Run. In the operations, you will be able to see run command. So click on this run command. What do you want to execute on that VM? PowerShell script. Yes. So copy the script from here and paste it here. That's it. You don't have to log in into the system. And once it is installed, how come you know that it is installed? Browse the public IP. And here also they will show us that the operation got completed something. This will take 5 minutes for sure. So you need to wait for it. And once this is completed, you can go back to that VM and you can access the public IP address of that VM so that you will be able to see IAS installed or not. VM1, by taking this public IP, you will be able to see it. So let's wait for it once it is installed or not. You will be seeing that message here. Okay. Now one question for you. How many kinds of IP address are there? Two. What is them? What are they? Public IP, private IP. Public IP is dynamic or static? Okay. So there might be a chance where there will be dynamic. At that time, what you need to do? You need to make them as a static. Now I have a question. In real time, you got a request to restart a VM. What are the few things that you need to check first itself? It is running. That's why they asked you to restart. So first, you need to go for that IP and see whether the public IP is dynamic or static. If it is dynamic, make it to static and then restart it. Because what happens is, if it is dynamic, again the IP will change. Again, whoever is trying to access that IP will not never work for them. Again, you need to pass the IP to them. So to avoid these kind of problems, you make it as a static. Okay. I'm not able to access the IAS web server. How do you debug that? I'm not able to access the IAS, but I can see IAS is installed. What might be the problem? Inbound, inbound and outbound port rules, you need to see whether inbound port number 80 is enabled on that VM or not. Then only your request goes inside that VM, right? Okay. I want to find out the version of the app service, like whether it is a Windows or Linux. Where do I check that? Console. What you need to type there? Underscore? VER only, underscore. No. It's just VER. And it says that it is done. Now we need to verify, right? Copy this and paste it here. Hello world from VM1. How it got the VM1? If I take the same script and install it on the second VM, it shows hello world from VM2. How automatically it is showing? So just look at the script. So hello world from is constant. It is just a string. That's why they mentioned it in the quotation marks. And they are going to add a variable called env. In that, they are trying to set the computer, they are trying to print the computer name. What is the print computer name? VM. So that they are just directly printing VMware like this. If you take the same script and execute it in the second VM, it will get as hello world from computer name VM2. Okay. So see this, what they are trying to do with this script. Install Windows feature called web server, and then whatever that is there, is.html, remove that and keep this content. Understood? By default, is.html is there, HTML is there, remove that and add this content in place of that. Okay. So like this, you are going to create the first one. Like the same way you need to do it for the second VM also. Create the VM, install the script, run the script. Okay. Then let's go to the load balancer. Can we discuss today or tomorrow?